What are my thoughts on Jagex increasing the membership price? I mean, if they're going to be removing the cash shop, they're going to have to find money somewhere else. As a player, I don't particularly like it, but as someone looking at it from a business point of view, I kind of understand that they're going to have to. Obviously, nobody likes price increases ever. With things needing to continue to match up to inflation, it's an inevitable thing that's going to happen. I don't like it, but I can understand why. Why would they do that? Why would they increase the cost of membership? Because they have removed the microtransactions from Runescape 3. Not all of them, but at least a decent chunk. I mean, from a business point of view, you just keep increasing prices until people stop buying stuff. You're saying RuneScape 3 is more free-to-play friendly now? In general, yeah. You still need to go and actually pay for the membership if you want access to all the game. You're surprised they would remove microtransactions. I think they realized they would make more money without them, which is what most companies want to do. Do you know if this will happen to OSRS as well? Let me ask the Oracle. That's a maybe. I have no idea. Sorry. Jagex announced they are once again raising prices for OSRS. This now makes it more expensive per month than a WoW sub. As you now have experience of both, what's my opinion on the cost to value comparisons of these MMOs? Give your money to the thing you want to do. That's literally it. If you want to play a third-person WASD hack-and-slash style RPG that is also called World of Warcraft, give your money to World of Warcraft. If you don't want to do that, don't. If you do want to play RuneScape, and you think that the cost-value proposition with your own life and your own finances is worth giving money to Jagex, give it to Jagex to play RuneScape. Inflation exists, stuff will get more expensive. Value maxing if you want to. Obviously, as a player and as a consumer advocate, I don't ever want anything to get more expensive ever. But I do also understand the reality that stuff does. I cannot decide for you where you should spend your money. If both of them were extremely similar, then yeah, sure, having the cost-value analysis is a good idea. Like if someone said, hey, should I play World of Warcraft or Runes of Magic, which is basically exactly the same game? Thoughts on the RuneScape membership price increase? It sucks that prices have to go up. They always will do because that's capitalism. But what I do think is, I think if Jagex is going to make RuneScape any more expensive, you should be able to have multiple accounts under one Jagex account. I don't like the fact that World of Warcraft will give you 50 characters. If Jagex is going to increase the cost of stuff, that's totally fine, but it's got to be worth it for the consumer. So, at the minute, if you want to play a main and an Iron Man, you have to pay a membership sub for them both, which I think is too much, because almost every other major MMORPG gives you access to multiple characters. Guild Wars 2, Guild Wars 1, Elder Scrolls Online, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV. Yes, you pay for it, but you can have like 10 different things that you do. RuneScape, I know that people are going to say, oh, but you can do everything on one character. Yeah, you can, but when you compare it to the value proposition you're getting from another game, they need to start looking at it from a value proposition point of view and letting people have multiple characters per paid account. Because consider the fact that even if they do raise the price and then they lose people, you've got to raise the price again to make up for the lost people, which means you lose more people. So you raise the price again. It's a downward spiral. It's got to be a value proposition. I mean, Jagex wanted you to download the Jagex launcher for a reason, and I think the Jagex launcher is fine. But if you're going to make a Jagex account, just let them pay for one account. Flying Bunny says, I tried RuneScape, Josh. I dislike how they treat free-to-play players, so I quit. That's understandable. Why is it that Warframe, Palia, and Path of Exile can offer the whole game for free, but MMOs always want to nickel and dime you at every passing second? It depends what you do and don't want to pay for. It also depends what you do and don't consider valuable and important. Obviously, I think Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 are both phenomenally good value games. MMORPGs having a subscription service has always been a thing that has brought in consistent money for them, allowing them to, create consistent and stable updates. RuneScape has an expansive free trial. Final Fantasy XIV has a free trial. It's the subscription model that allows them to keep going. I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but I'm saying I understand it. Plus, if you make a game free, you can find ways to allow people to pay a lot more money for it in the future. If everyone is limited to paying $15, then you'll make $15 per person. If the game is free but it's unlimited, you only need one person to spend $15,000, and suddenly you've effectively paid for 1,000 people. So while I think that it's great to have a free game that allows you to enjoy it, from a business point of view, free can sometimes be the most expensive. If a game has no cap on how much money you can spend on it, it could, even if it costs nothing to play, be the most expensive game you ever end up playing. Neverwinter is free. I've spent thousands on it, probably going into about 2,000 or 3,000 now. I'm not paying for it anymore, but if a game has no limit on the amount of money you can give it, someone with way more money than you will give it that much. If a game has a limit on the amount of money you can give it, everyone is giving it the same, and so the game is incentivized to be the best game it can possibly be for as many people as possible. If a game is making money off a couple of people, it is often incentivized to serve those people. I spoke to a friend of mine who worked on a mobile game. I won't say which one, but it was one of those build your kingdom PvP style games. You know, the ones that it wasn't Clash of Clans, but it was similar to Clash of Clans. And he told me that every end of month, the vast majority of their income came from about 8 to 9 players. Not 89, 8 or 9. Now, the game had tens of thousands, but it was 8 or 9 people that were spending the most money. And so what they would often do is they would look at updates that would serve some of those people and harm some of them, and they would push them out in that order. So if player A was winning and player B was second place, they would push out an update that actually helped whatever strategy player B was going for. Only slightly, which would encourage player B to spend money to help the strategy work, and player A would then fall into second place. And then they would be encouraged to spend more money to get back into the first place. And then next patch, it would be like, hey, we've rebalanced this and this and this. And the rebalancing was actually to make sure that the players at the very top 8 or 9 were actually cycling through who was in first place consistently, because they knew that the person in first place was going to be the one that spent the most money to stay there. Why do they do that at this point? They can just hire devs to make a game. It's not about winning. It's about others losing. That's the most important thing. People forget that. It doesn't matter that they win. Others must lose. They were profit maxing. I mean, if you had a business and your business was just a video game, and you had like a couple of people that were spending the most money, it's very important that people get to see that you are spending the most money and doing well. But remember that every game does this. Every business does this. You want to incentivize people. And I saw this happening years ago. So Magic the Gathering used to do these things called buy a box promos. Now, buy a box promos were normally a special alternate art version of a card that already existed. And the very important thing about these buy a box promos, buy a box means like a whole booster box, like 36 booster packs. If you buy a box, you get, for example, I think Innistrad had the Grave Crawler. If you bought a box of Innistrad, you got it. No, Dark Ascension had the Grave Crawler, Innistrad had something else. But the important thing was they were not mechanically unique. So even if you didn't get the buy a box promo, which was just for visually showing off, you could still go and get the actual card mechanically from somewhere else. But there was a specific promo I remember called, was it Sun Song? It was either Sun Song was one of the first to do it, and then there was a blue card that ended up being a time warp style effect. You guys in the chat, you'll have to work out the blue card for me. Nexus of Fate, that was the one. Nexus of Fate. The only way to get Nexus of Fate was by doing the promo. There was another Minotaur one that was it was a creature, but it wasn't very good. People didn't really care about the Sunspeaker Minotaur because it was crap. But as soon as I saw the Minotaur one, the Sunspeaker, come out as the first mechanically unique buy a box promo, I thought, right, cat's out of the bag here. Now this has become a problem. When Nexus of Fate, which is a good card, became almost a meta needed card, we suddenly realized that Magic the Gathering had at that point gone full pay to win, which I think is a shame. It's a real shame. So when you say, why do people design stuff like this? The thing is that it makes money. Imagine that you are working on a business. The biggest fear of some rich people is being in a situation where their money does not give them an advantage. That's very true. That is very, very true. Some people see the money they make as something that should have an advantage in their lives. Now, if you did not have a lot of money and you come into a lot of money, you normally have a slightly more grounded understanding that not every situation in life will be solved by throwing money at it. But if you've been brought up in a situation or a kind of family life where every problem you face you can just throw money at and it will solve itself because you can hire people to do it, you can hire contractors, you can get the materials, then why shouldn't that exist in games you play as well? I'm not saying I agree, but do you see why it would be difficult for them to to change around their opinion of that. But what kind of logic is it to make free-to-play players feel like livestock? Because, Cat, if you're going to have whales, you need krill. A whale only cares if they are beating people that can see the fact they are being beaten. In order to attract a whale, you need to have an ecosystem built around it. Meat on the bones of free-to-play players. Yeah, they absolutely are. The game slowly withers and implodes, and the devs aren't surprised at all. Because for them, it was never a super long-term thing. It was quarterly profit, quarterly profit, quarterly profit. Sometimes the reason that games are given out for free, and you said yourself earlier that you like playing the free-to-play games. How are there so many games that are free? Because the games that are free will give the whales the opportunity to give them more money. But the whales need something to hunt. The whales need a populace to be better than. And if you are not giving the game your money, then you need to be supporting the game in some way. And the way you are supporting it is by being that populace. That's what it is. If you are not supporting them financially, you are supporting the game socially by giving the whales an incentive to support them financially. Why are they called whales? Because they spend a huge amount of money, and whales are just very, very big creatures. If you imagine the ecosystem of an MMORPG as an ocean, you will have a lot of very small fish and a couple of massive fish. And a whale will spend more money than hundreds, some cases thousands of other players put together. There is even a great video on YouTube called Whale Hunting, or Hunting the Whale, which is about mobile games trying to target rich people. So normal players are really krill. They really are, genuinely. Like if there was an open world PvP game that allowed you to spend real money to have an advantage, it would only work if lots of people didn't. And a few people did in order to get the advantage and stay winning. And whenever people pop into this stream and say, hey, I've thought of a game that allows you to spend real money in it, all you're basically saying is, I want to hunt the whales. People that don't spend the real money, they are the product that the whales go and hunt. Darth Microtransaction does some great videos on that. Yeah, great content creator. If you're not paying for the game, you are part of the experience for somebody else. And people always say, oh, but the game's going to die. Yes, they don't care about the length of the game. They care about the profit of the game. Now, if the game will make the most profit over what they consider to be a fair amount of time, then yeah, they'll keep the game alive. But let's say to someone, hey, if you can make enough money over the next 5 years to retire and feed your entire family forever, would you do it? Most people would say yes. And if they say, okay, the way you do that is by creating a video game and selling power in that game over the next 5 years. It doesn't matter if it lasts more than 5 years. 5 years, you cash out, you're done. That's what they want. A lot of people that fund games at the top see the games as the product, not necessarily as a culture to maintain. Now, people are going to immediately push back with, oh, but that's not how this game works, or that game works, or the other game works. Businesses have lifespans, and it's totally okay to work out the lifespan of a business and say, right, it's going to make the most money by doing this, 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 and this. I don't like it, but I am aware that's how it works. Look at Ashes of Creation. They got that bag. Now, sometimes the product survives, and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm there to fill a virtual world with life so somebody pays and enjoys it more. Yes, if you aren't paying, then yes. If you are not giving the company that are making that virtual world your money, then the company are spending money on you. The company are spending money on keeping the servers up for you. They're spending money on you accessing that. It's not free for them to provide that. But your presence there will be a net gain for them because someone, somewhere, is spending money. You are a bit player in the main story of somebody richer, if that's what you want to look at an MMORPG as. So one of the reasons that I don't mind games with a subscription cost and very little else is the fact that everyone suddenly then becomes the focus. Now, I'm not saying that Ashes of Creation was or wasn't mishandled or a scam or anything like that. I think there were many different layers and many different elements that did not work together with that entire product. But I think what's important to remember, and this is a discussion I've had on cash shops before, you will design a business to focus on the customers that give you the most money. If you don't, you're a fool. Now, if those customers are millions of people paying $1 a month, cool, you're going to focus on keeping them doing that. If you are going to focus on one person giving you $1 million a month, yeah, you're going to focus on that one person. Ultimately, as a business, you will look at where your income comes from and say, right, that's our focus. Now consider this. Imagine that your boss tells you to put a cash shop in the game and sell a health potion. If that health potion in the cash shop is completely irrelevant, like it restores basically no health, you can get a better one in the game, super easy, super quick, all that jazz, then no one's going to buy it. Therefore, it might be in the cash shop, but yeah, no one's going to buy it. Going to make no money. If anything, you've wasted time putting it there, designing it there, holding it there, doing the back-end code for it. So in order for something to be in a cash shop, you have to, on at least some level, incentivize someone to buy it. There's two ways you can incentivize somebody to buy something from a cash shop. The first way is you make the thing in the cash shop better than anything else currently in the game. The second way is you start to make the game worse. If you have a health potion in a cash shop, the point of that health potion is to be purchased. How do you make someone buy it? Well, you make it better than any other health potion in the game. You make it heal more health, you make it heal faster, you give it effects that don't exist. You make everything reduce your HP. You start to include mechanics in the game that actually can't really work unless someone has that health potion. You start to design for that health potion to be a thing that you expect a player to have. You make the mobs hit harder. What that means is you are then changing the design of your game to favor the people that have spent money on it over the people that haven't. And at some point you get to a point where you can kind of just brute force your way through the game by having those items. So in Neverwinter Online, there was an item called a Scroll of Resurrection, where if you died, you could just get back up. And then there was an item in the cash shop called the Scroll of Mass Resurrection, which means if your team died, one person could use one Scroll of Mass Resurrection and your entire team got back up. That does mean that there were some bosses that we beat by just having 7 or 8 Scrolls of Mass Resurrection and brute forcing the boss to be able to get the items the boss dropped, to gear better, to be able to go back and kill the stuff. But the Scroll of Mass Resurrection cost about $3 or $4. Do you think they designed bosses to wipe the entire team pretty easily to incentivize the purchasing of Scrolls of Mass Resurrection? Yes, of course they did. They absolutely did, because most of the endgame bosses had mechanics that, if not done perfectly, would wipe the entire team. And then one person on that team could be a hero by resurrecting everyone. And it only cost $3 or $4 and you got to be a hero, which means suddenly not only are you making the game harder to play, you are then allowing people who spend money to be a goddamn hero. That's what it is. So when people say they don't like playing games you have to pay for, they prefer free games. Free games have to make money somewhere. And sometimes the way they make money is just cosmetics. I like how Path of Exile does this. I think Path of Exile 1 and 2 have very fair cash shops because they are just cosmetic things. I think that Guild Wars 2 starts to skirt the line slightly and gets into the bit where actually you are at that point just selling advantages. I think Elder Scrolls Online, having the subscription which gives you the pocket, the crafting bag that allows you to carry way more stuff, that's how that works. I noticed, and when you start noticing that games are doing these things in order to make you spend more money, we call it a dark pattern. Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games has a great video on his YouTube about this. A dark pattern is any decision that has been made to prioritize taking your money through the game instead of making the game better. Because let's imagine that a designer designs an incredible boss in a game, but that boss does not have a party wipe mechanic. Well, I mean, at that point, maybe it should have a party wipe mechanic, because we need to incentivize people to buy Scrolls of Mass Resurrection. What if MMOs were forced by law to have only one type of monetization, like either a sub or a cash shop, but not both? Would all of them go for sub only? No, they would probably all go for a cash shop. Cash shop makes more money than subs for a couple of people. Also, when you say forced by law, the first thing that someone would do when they hear that is work out how to get around that. Okay, so Bunny, you're not wrong wanting this, by the way. The question is, let me ask you this, because this is a really interesting question, genuinely interesting question. Flying Bunny Cat. Flying Bunny Cat, how much money do you pay into MMORPGs per month? Roughly. You haven't got to tell me everything, obviously. but give me a ballpark figure. Give me a rough ballpark, if you're comfortable doing that. If you're not comfortable doing that, just say, I'm not comfortable doing that. And that's totally fine. I'll respect that. Depends if they release skins or pets. Okay? So you are happy to give your money to a game, which means that you are encouraging cash shop behavior. Okay, some people are giving numbers in general. Can be $100 for plat refill in Warframe, can be $200 for ship in Star Citizen. Okay, Kat, so you've said that you will not play a game that charges you a monthly sub, but you will happily play $100 to Warframe or $200 to Star Citizen. So you've already spent a year's worth of subscription in a game, and you don't get the full game of that, because then that game that you are playing will bring out more stuff that you have to buy. Meaning if you kept up with the amount of the full game, you would have to keep paying everything. Whereas if you were to play a subscription game that just have everything, you would have paid less money for more complete experiences. Now, I don't necessarily think that subscription is better than every other type of monetization. I think that buying something and having it is one of the best types, like Guild Wars 1. Like, to a degree, Elder Scrolls Online. Microtransactions will end up costing you far more than anything else you could just buy. It's also nice to know that with a subscription, if something else comes out in that game, chances are you're going to be able to get it. I mean, there are games that I'm happy to support through their cash shop, but I like it when they have a cash shop that I don't need to use. Like, I will happily support Path of Exile 2. ESO is moving to a free-to-play model with an optional sub and battle pass, because that's how you make a lot of money. But see, when I had the WoW sub, I was under constant type of dread when I was playing anything but WoW. I felt like I was paying monthly for this and I must pay something else, while that $200 ship stays there permanently. Okay, so you spent 200 quid and you've got access to that ship for as long as you want, as long as the game exists. That's the important thing. So what you care about is object permanence within the games you are playing. But it's still a game. If you play the game for 1 hour, you've effectively then spent $200 on a single hour. If you play for 2 hours, then you've paid $100 for an hour worth of fun. You play for 4, you've played $50 for an hour worth of fun. The more you play, the better the money investment effectively becomes. If you pay $15 or $20 or whatever Warcraft is a month, is it $15 currently? I think it's about $15. If you pay $15, I'm going to use it because it's a nice round number, for World of Warcraft, and you play 10 hours a month. That's not a huge amount of time. I think it's probably doable. $15. You play 10 hours a month, you pay $1.50 per hour. Okay. $1.50 per hour is, I think, a pretty decent deal for entertainment. Very few entertainment mediums will give you more than an hour of entertainment for $1.50. Compare that to going to watch a film at the cinema. You're paying way, way, way more for the cinema. How much would you have to play the games until your $200 or your $100 became $1.50 worth of it? And of course, obviously, the more you then keep buying, the more expensive that becomes. If you are looking at it on a time basis point of view, let's say that you spend $100 a month on, Warframe. Eventually, what's going to happen is you will have spent more per hour on that than you would have on something else. If that's what you want to do, if your enjoyment of a game comes down to, am I getting the most efficient use of stuff for my money? Are you enjoying the game, or are you enjoying the efficiency that it brings? You're not wrong for this, by the way. You spend your money however the hell you want to spend your money. But what this would be is, if I were creating a game, I would love you as a customer. Like, you are the ideal customer. Someone who is going to want to justify their purchase. Someone who is going to want to make it feel like they're not just paying for game time that they feel indebted to play, but feel that they're investing in something as well. That's fine. I would love that as a customer. And maybe you do have an element of FOMO. Maybe there is an element of fear of missing out. But do you think the games that you're playing on don't have that? Let's say that you said you used Star Citizen as an example of a thing that you were happy to spend money on. Now, my opinions on Star Citizen are irrelevant because I don't know enough about it. But do Star Citizen have limited time ships? Do they have limited time ships that you can purchase in the shop that will go away if you don't purchase them in time or once they sell out? Someone that knows more about it than I do will have to let me know. They have limited quantity, which means even though it's a digital good, it's a limited quantity thing. Limited quantity a couple of times a year. Okay, gotcha. But they go on sale every year. Right. But there is still an element of FOMO to it. There is still a case of, if you don't buy this ship right now, you will lose it until the next chance you get to buy it. Okay, so you said that you didn't like, and I'm not having a go at you for this. This is a really good discussion. You said that you don't like feeling pressure to play a game if the game has a monthly sub. And that pressure is, of course, annoying. They become available after a few patches for in-game money. Okay. But you also must understand that the game that you are talking about supporting because you feel that you have it also engages in those practices. It's engaging in the practice of this is a limited time ship that if you want right now, you have to spend real money right now. The game that you are supporting is engaging in a FOMO limited time, encourage people to spend money right now practice. That just is happening, which means that when you spend money on the game by buying the ships like that, you are encouraging them to continue doing that because that's what makes them the money. FOMO can exist in anything. It exists in World of Warcraft. Exactly. I love Warframe as well. I think Warframe is a great game. However, it does, of course, itself engage in FOMO. So when you say that you wish there was one type of monetization, that would just be whatever makes the company the most money, not necessarily whatever serves the player base the best. Because when those two things align, great. When they don't, that's when you get the bad stuff going on. If your thought of, I spend money on this and I have access to it forever, that sounds great. That's what Stop Killing Games is kind of about. Just watch your video where you addressed the fellow who wanted to make an MMO for real-world money. Love what you had to say. Oh, thank you very much. They think I'm a dick because I question their ideas. The next time, just send them the video. If you bring real-world money into an MMORPG, you're effectively saying, can we make a game where you can just pay more money to be better at it? Which sucks. But if I play a free-to-play game that's pay-to-win and I meet someone that's spent, 10 million quid in that game, which is honestly not that unlikely, then I'm going to say, hey, thanks for keeping this game free for me. Appreciate it. It's very kind of you. Also, once a game goes offline, you don't have access to your ship anymore. I don't think it's healthy to see a digital good that you do not have complete legal, lawful ownership over as something that's going to last forever. It will last as long as the people who pay for the servers keep the servers up. I mean, the entire point of the Stop Killing Games initiative is to say, hey, when these go down, can we please have a way to continue accessing them? Do I think targeting whales is exploitative? Depends how you target them. I think that people have a human nature and a human need to want to be seen as elite, to want to excel, to want to show status. If you were to say, hey, this MMORPG game is going to feature a special pirate ship that is fully made of gold and only 10 people in the world will be able to have it and it costs, £100,000, but it doesn't function mechanically differently to any other ship, then you are giving people the chance to spend money to show off, which I kind of think I'm okay with. If they say, hey, this pirate ship is also going to have twice the armor, twice the damage, twice this, twice that, and will be almost impossible to beat for anyone that doesn't have it, then you're offering the chance for people to pay money to win mechanically, which is different. I do not mind people spending money on cosmetics. I'm not a fan of games that lock the coolest looking stuff behind money, but I get why they do it. And this also comes back to the idea earlier. You know when I said if a game has a potion in the cash shop, they have to build the game around incentivizing people to buy the potion? Well, if the game has the coolest looking stuff in the cash shop, then by definition, the stuff you can get by just playing the game is not the coolest stuff, which means that then the designers and the cosmetic designers are incentivized to keep the coolest stuff away from the regular players. So do I think it's okay to exploit people? In this case, whales within the gaming industry? I think a business is going to tap into any element of income that it can find. And if you're going to tap into elements of income that you can find, then at least doing it in a non-mechanical way is the kinder of these ways to do it, in my idea. Yeah, even if you don't pay for it, you're paying for it, in a way. If someone wants to say, hey, I'm going to spend more on this thing because it's permanent, as opposed to I'm going to spend less on this thing but it's less permanent, then consider this. Let's imagine if you knew what that money, that amount was going to be. Would you then feel less pressure to play? So let's say this. Let's say that you could buy a lifetime pass to an MMORPG for £10,000. It's a lot of money, but let's say that you could do it. £10,000, lifetime pass to any MMO you want. All content ever will be yours. Then let's say that another game brought out a single purchase that cost £1,000. And then next year another purchase that cost £1,000. And next year another purchase that cost £1,000. After 10 years, if the game that has the single purchases has stayed online, you will end up spending more money on that other game. You like monthly subs, cancel it whenever you stop playing. Absolutely. And later they removed it because it was too good of a deal. Absolutely. But I mean, Bunnycat, you've been excellent at talking about this, by the way. I don't want you to think you're being, belittled or not, respected and listened to, because the way you choose to spend your money is your money. You're not wrong for having those opinions and thoughts. But consider this, guys. $15 a month is a different amount of money to different people in relation to how much money they actually have. Let's say that you don't want to spend $15 a month on something because you then feel pressured to play it. Whereas some people could spend $15 a month and not even notice it's gone. And if they jump on for an hour or two, yeah, cool, great. They enjoy it for an hour or two. That's it. That's good. That's all they needed it for. And some people would play $100 to $200 for a pixel spaceship because they have $100 to $200 spare. If you don't have a huge amount of money spare, you're going to want to feel that the money you are spending is being invested in something long-term, not something that is, short-term and could potentially go away. But if you have tens or even hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars in your bank account, spare, you've got your mortgage paid off, your rent paid for, $15 a month, you're not going to care about. So you have to work out what you do and don't care about, the amount of money that you have got. All resources are, relative. So when you say that you don't want to play a sub MMO because you feel pressured to play it, I'm sure some people probably look at their bank statement at the end of the year and see a year's sub for a game they haven't even played, which to them they might go, oh, I should cancel that. Or they go, you know what, that game was fun. I'll just leave it. I can afford to spend 150 quid a year just keeping that option available. That's the difference in people's lifestyles. If you have an ongoing subscription for WoW, you've spent just shy of $4,000. That's cool. That's Josh with OSRS, and we all know it. Yeah, it is. I've kept an active old-school RuneScape subscription online the whole time, just in case I need to log on and get footage. Also, why are you spending the money if you don't want to play it? Because you might want to play it, but you might also have stuff come up in your everyday life that takes your attention away, but it's also not the amount of money that you want to stop going out. The amount of money that you do and don't spend or consider worth spending or worth, retrieving is based on how much you do or don't have. Would a sub of 30 days, but it being in-game days, not negate the FOMO? No, Hayne. What that would do, great idea, by the way, what that would do is incentivize only the most efficient possible gameplay. If you knew that your sub was ticking down as you were playing the game, then very few people would want to play for fun. Very few people would want to be silly with those games. And if you failed a dungeon run because of somebody else messing up, that would be incredibly toxic toward that person. Because then you've got all of those people hating the fact that their in-game time has been wasted by someone failing, making a wrong mechanic. I know that the time in game here is effectively costing and ticking down. But because I've paid for my month in here, I also don't particularly care. You're going to have the people who want to min-max everything because then they're incentivized to do so. And that is the danger of that. And whether that's right or wrong is based on your own personal circumstance. Seeing a clock ticking down will only go up if money is thrown at it, even if the sub is around €5. Perhaps it's hard to explain, you're a bit of a nut. Bunny, you spend your money how you want to spend your money. You've given a game $200 of your own money for a virtual ship in a game that isn't fully released yet, might not fully release, and other people can buy a better ship than you by spending more money. So they can give themselves a bigger advantage over you by just dropping more money on it and beating you and making your ship effectively irrelevant. Someone cannot spend more money on Classic WoW and immediately be better at it than me. I mean, they can buy a boost, but until I get to that point, we're not going to be on the same kind of level. Now, I don't particularly like games that allow people to throw more money at them and be better. I think that kind of sucks. Wasn't there a guy who spent so much money on Diablo Immortal, his gear was so good the game couldn't find anyone to pair him against? I have heard of that, yes. I have heard of that. People spend their money on what makes them feel good. What makes them feel safe and supported. And with some people, that is a video game that they want to keep forever because they see that money as an investment in that game's future. An important way to look at a video game timing is you've already spent the money. It comes down to habit and incentive. It does. It really does. But Bunny mentioned the fact that they have purchased ships in Star Citizen, which means that surely now Star Citizen is incentivized to keep selling bigger ships. Do I think there was ever, say, a set margin in a game where it was like, if we sell a 20,000 of potions this month, we keep them in the shop, and the result was over it? I think that you have to also remember that they're not actually selling potions. It doesn't matter. You don't need to sell $20,000 of potions. You just need to make money. You are selling a digital good, which by its very nature is not finite. It is infinite. You are just giving someone access to a number of ones and zeros. The only reason that there are a limited amount of anything digital is to create a level of FOMO, fear of missing out. You can have a limitation on physical things because you have to actually make them. But when they say, oh, there are only 100 of these digital things, why? It's because you need someone to give you money, and the idea of feeling exclusive means that people give you money. So when you say they need to sell $20,000 of potions, once it's in the shop, as long as the amount of potions being sold is greater than the amount of electricity that it costs to simply keep the shop alive, everything is profit. It is straight up pure profit. That's all it is. Even sales in a cash shop are FOMO. Things like, buy this premium currency, get 50% off. That's FOMO. That's actually another dark pattern. So, have you guys ever seen that you normally cannot purchase stuff from an in-game shop directly? What you have to do is buy actual premium currency, proprietary currency, and then you buy stuff from the shop. So you buy $10, $20, $50 worth of special magical currency, and then you use that currency. This is another part of the dark pattern. It's a level of what we call obfuscation, which is the ability to hide the real value of something. There is also a legal reason it's done, because then nothing in the shop has any actual real world value. Now consider this. Let's imagine that you spent 50 quid for an in-game item, and then someone killed you and they got the in-game item. You would feel a little bit bad. You might even feel like they'd stolen it from you. You might think, oh, wow, I've spent 50 quid, I've got this in-game item, someone killed me, they've got it, I've lost that, I'm going to sue this company. They've stolen that from me. That item had value. And some courts may agree. But let's do this. Let's add a layer of obfuscation between this. That did happen, by the way. That happened in Runescape. Let's add a layer of obfuscation. Let's say that you have to purchase 50 quid worth of premium currency. And then, in the game, you can spend the premium currency on items. But here's the kicker. You cannot lose the premium currency. You cannot be killed and have someone take the premium currency off you. Because what you are buying is not the item. You are buying the premium currency. That is on your account. That's yours. No one can then take that from you. Even if they kill you, you don't drop it. Then you use the premium currency to purchase an item. Then they kill you and they get the item drop. It's very important that because of that layer of obfuscation, you have not actually lost anything of real world value. Because even though the item itself was purchased using a currency that has real world value, the item itself did not. Because the item can change the in-game value as and when it wishes. It has a value of 0. That is the kicker for it. Now, what you can also do, so first of all, what you've done is you've put a layer of obfuscation between the actual purchased item and the in-game item. Are you saying this has happened? Yeah, why do you think in games you have to buy stuff like gems or gold currency or diamonds, and then you spend those on the in-game things? Because what that means is you are not spending real money directly on things. You are spending real money on a proprietary premium currency like Mickey Mouse Fun Bucks, which can then only be spent in a certain place. This is why when you see games having sales and they're like 50% off premium currency if you buy now, it doesn't matter. The premium currency costs them nothing. The items cost them nothing to make. It's a digital good. They just say that you do or don't have it. Those things have no value. You're just giving them that and they're giving you that. And now let's make it even worse. The more distance you make between real cash and premium currency, the more layers of obfuscation you add. Let's say that you can spend $50 to get 45 crystals, and then you exchange 45 crystals for 13 star shards, and then you can exchange 10 star shards for 1 prime gem, and then you can take 1 prime gem and break that down into 3 different, super duper crystals. How much money is a super duper crystal worth? You could probably reverse engineer it and find out, but you're not going to know off the top of your head. And that's by design. You're like, okay, now I don't know how much this is worth. And then you spend 2 super duper crystals to get a special item. But notice how I said 2 and not 3. How many super duper crystals did you get? You got 3, didn't you? And then you're spending 2 to get an item, which means you've got 1 left over. But nothing in the shop costs 1. So what do you need to do? Because if you leave that 1 crystal on your account, you know what you've done? You've wasted money. That's going to sit there, staring at you. Hey, you bought me. You spent real world money on me. You can't do anything with me. May as well get some more. That is a specific thing that is designed. Because what you then see is premium currency is not only sold to obfuscate the real world value, not only then converted to several different layers of premium currency to obfuscate value, it is then taken off you in non-balanced amounts to leave some in your wallet. Because by seeing some premium currency left in your wallet, you are reminded that you have some value. It's almost like a gift card with a single cent on it. May as well use it. And if you don't, you have wasted it. You think you've left something on the table. You've wasted it. So what you then do is you get people to buy more. Let's say that you can buy special premium currency in packs of 1,000 or 2,000. And let's say that something costs 2,900. You're going to buy the 2,000 pack, and then you're thinking, well, if I buy the 1,000 pack, I'm going to have enough. I'll have 3,000. That's 2,900. But then, hang on, I'll have 100 left over, and the next thing in the shop costs 110. Which means you're actually now incentivized to buy 2,000 packs, which will give you 4,000. However, there's a really cool item that costs 4,001, which means there's actually a 10,000 pack that is better value, so you may as well go and buy that. Here's the trick. They never wanted you to buy the 1,000 and 2,000 packs. I used to do this in marketing all the time whenever I worked in retail. Those things are called price anchoring. What we want to do is anchor your expectation to something lower, then give you something that looks like great value. Let's imagine this. Let's imagine that I'm selling 3 different products. Product 1, 2, and 3. 1 is a very small version of the product that costs £10. 2 is a slightly bigger version of the product that costs £11. And 3 is a really big version of the product that costs £500. The vast majority of people are going to buy the middle product. Because they're going to say, well, I can spend £10 to get the small product, but it's only £1 more to get the middle one. And that seems like a really good value. And the top one is way too expensive. I don't need that. So I'll buy the middle one. Here's the trick. The £500 one only existed to get you to buy the middle one, to make it look cheap by comparison. And the small one only exists to incentivize you to spend the extra £1 to buy the middle one. There will be 10,000% more of the middle one that are made than the small one and the big one, because that's the one we want you to buy. But if we only put that one out, you won't buy it because you've got nothing to compare it to. We've not anchored your price to anything else. How has this become a business marketing meeting? Because you need to know. You need to understand exactly what they're doing. So when you go to a premium currency of a shop, you sometimes in mobile games see that even they actually have plastered when you're in the shop, it says most popular, most common one to buy, best value, best deal, here it is, which makes you go through all the maths and think, you know what, that is the best value, I'm going to go with that one instead. If you know the tricks, it's harder to be tricked. I want to try and explain to you what these systems are that are kind of getting their hooks into you. Remember the Diablo Immoral video that I made? Remember that whole 800% value thing? Compared to what? 800% value against nothing. It's just a number they put on there. Forewarned is forearmed, and there is nothing scarier than a forearmed man. Except there isn't an option to not be tricked. There are no businesses that do not do this anymore. You felt poor when you went to train your dual spec. You went out and bought 5 apples. Because you'll never afford the dual spec. Yeah, anything that says popular choice or best deal is always that. Marketing is a fascinating thing that I do a hell of a lot of. And because I've worked in so many things that needed so much marketing, you end up learning all the tricks. I could do an entire lecture on dark patterns. In fact, I might even do my entire TED talk on that. I might just sit up and go, right, listen, this is 15 minutes about how you're being nickel and dimed in games. This is a full-on dark pattern lecture. Let's go. Chris Wilson knows way more about this as well. He put a great video out on YouTube that you guys should go and watch. You love the discussion, been getting into this stuff more than in the past, and it changed your whole attitude. Absolutely. It's important to know what you should and should not support. I'll tell you one thing that irritates me about this all the bloody time. So many people say to me, well, why don't businesses just do this? as if it's the simplest thing in the world. Businesses do what makes them the most money over the longest period of time with the least risk. Now, sometimes the way to make the most money is by taking a huge risk. Sometimes it isn't. I've lived 30 years. How have I done so much in such a short time? I've asked a lot of people a lot of questions, and I've been very lucky to do a lot of things. I went paintballing when I was a kid. My mum taught me paintballing, and after the paintballing session, I simply walked up to the manager there and said, "Hey man, this is really fun. You guys got any jobs going?" And he went, "Yeah, actually, we do need a paintball marshal. Come back in a few days' time. We'll do a trial run." And we did, and it was great. I had a good time. And then the same thing happened. I went go-karting, and I'm like, "Hey man, you got any jobs going?" He's like, "Yeah, just come back. We'll see what you're good at." And I learned how to be a mechanic, and then I was doing the drama teaching, and I was teaching the martial arts stuff, and I said to my instructor, "Hey, you've been teaching me for a while. Maybe I can teach like a kid's lesson." And I learned to teach kids martial arts, which is actually much harder than teaching adults martial arts. And then that evolved into working with the Navy, and then that got me the connections with the educational system. Honestly, it is literally just me doing a lot of stuff and saying to people, "Hey, can I get involved in this?"